Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today we're going to talk about the War Pigeon game mode in Battlefield 1. And I know what you're thinking, finally, the pigeons. We've been seeing all these airships and giant dreadnoughts all day, but what about the pigeons? And don't worry, I got you guys hooked up with tons of pigeon gameplay. Well, it's not really pigeon gameplay, it's mostly just me running around shooting people on domination or TDM style maps, but there is a pigeon involved. And we're starting off the game mode here in the new map, Ballroom Blitz. This is the smaller version of the map designed for TDM, Domination, and War Pigeon. And basically, most of the fighting takes place in or around this large French chateau. Now, just like every other game mode, there's two teams, and at the start of the round, you got 20 minutes on the clock. And the first team to basically release 3 different pigeons wins the game, but it's not just as simple as finding the pigeons and releasing them. There's a little bit of a process involved. Now, at the start of the round, a pigeon will be located at a random location throughout the map. Whichever team gets to it first will basically hold it, and then you have to write a message while holding that pigeon. You can see here on my screen I'm holding the pigeon. I've got that little writing message at the top, but it's not really writing right now, and that's because I was sprinting. When you're just walking around, it'll write a little bit, but if you stand still, it'll write a lot faster. So the idea is that you got to grab the pigeon and then find a safe location to sort of sit down and write that message. And that can be hard, and here I'm outside and I'm just getting absolutely hammered by mortars. And it's particularly easy for the mortar guy to see you because when you're holding the pigeon, your icon will be illuminated for the enemy team. Now, it's not on all the time, it's intermittent, but it's enough for the enemy team to basically figure out where the pigeon is most of the time and have a pretty good idea of where you're hiding. Now, the strategy isn't quite just as straightforward as grab the pigeon, write the letter, release the pigeon, get a point. If you release the pigeon and the enemy team is totally surrounding you, they can shoot the pigeon out of the air and you will not get any points, and it'll start the whole pigeon process all over again, and neither team will get a point for that. It's not that hard to shoot the pigeon out of the air. When we were playing, it got shot out of the air a ton. So basically the game went on for quite a while because we kept shooting the pigeon. So the strategy then is to write the message, hold on to the pigeon, and wait to make sure that there's no enemies around. When you release it, the enemies just aren't ready to shoot it or something. You basically need to be able to protect it when you release it. So it adds a little bit more complexity to the game mode. Now, if you pick up the pigeon and you get killed in the middle of writing your message, say you're halfway done writing the message and your teammate picks up the pigeon, it'll still be halfway through writing that message. So it is a team effort. It's not just about one guy holding the pigeon. Now, once the pigeon is released and escapes, it'll actually call in artillery strikes, and anybody caught out in the open could get one-shotted by an artillery shell. This doesn't necessarily make any sort of impact on the game mode, as most people have enough time to sort of respawn and find the next location of the pigeon. It's really only about pigeon points. It doesn't matter how many times you kill the bad guys. It does contribute to your own personal score, but it doesn't really help out the team other than protecting the pigeon carrier. Now, Ballroom Blitz actually scales really well for an infantry-only game mode. Obviously, this map is much larger when you play it on Operations or Conquest, and if you check out my other video today, I've got a whole bunch of Operations gameplay on the new maps. I highly recommend it, but one of the reasons why I like this map so much is that it's got some good, solid lanes. There is some destruction in there, but you can never really break down the pathing of the map, and the pathing, in my opinion, works pretty well. The only downside, though, is that War Pigeon is a very chaotic game mode. The team spawns seem to change up all the time, so there isn't one side of the map that belongs to the team. People will be coming at you from all different angles, and the pigeon spawn is very random. So rather than mounting offensives or pushing the front line with your teammates, it's just sort of run and gun, pure chaos. And that can be good and fun. I just feel like we already have a bunch of modes like that in Battlefield, and I was hoping that this one would have a little bit more strategy to it. It reminds me a little bit of Drop Zone from Star Wars Battlefront, where you had to sort of capture 3 pods, except the pods were stationary, and I think that allowed the map designers or the game mode designers to make it a little bit more consistent and more strategic with the team spawns. Whereas with the pigeon just moving all over the place, you might accidentally run the pigeon into the enemy team's spawn unless you're totally aware of what's going on. Now, I'm sure they have some sort of spawn algorithm to try and prevent that, but if you didn't know any better, you might be taking the pigeon into the exact corner of the map where the enemy team is about to start spawning. So strategically, strategically, sometimes it's really hard to know if you're even taking the pigeon in the right direction. Then of course, sometimes you run into the exact opposite issue where the pigeon carrier runs in the perfect direction exactly away from the enemy team, and he never gets engaged in combat once, and the enemy team can never actually catch up to them in time. This is especially prevalent when you're playing on some of the other maps like Argonne Forest, which is a bit more chaotic, lots of trenches, lots of things to get you stuck on when you're trying to move throughout the map, and often the enemy team, when I was playing anyway, wasn't even able to get to the pigeon once the carrier picked it up. So there was very limited combat around the pigeon itself just because of the complexities of the map. Also, once the enemy team picks up that pigeon, you basically have to sprint as fast as possible towards the pigeon if you have any chance of catching them, which doesn't allow you much time to move through the map in a strategic manner. So it's very easy for people to set up booby traps or just wait for you to come around the corner and mow you down, because if you're in an all-out sprint, you can't really slow down for anyone. It's going to make you a very easy target. Now here I've got the pigeon with the message fully written. I go and release it for 100 points, and then the message gets delivered. That means nobody shot the pigeon, and I get an extra 250 points. I think this is kind of a small reward for being the pigeon carrier. I definitely think they should give you a little bit more, especially for writing the message. If you could get like points that tick up while writing, that might make it a bit more worthwhile, since once you pick up the pigeon, your days are numbered. I mean, you're going to die pretty quickly after that unless your team is amazing and can protect you really well. Now here we are on the Monte Grappa map, obviously the small infantry only version of it. This map is absolutely huge though when you're playing Conquest. Definitely big enough to fit a Zeppelin on there. Very, very fun to play on the Operations game mode as well. I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite map, but it is just beautiful. And it's actually got some really cool trenches built into it and some like underground areas and even some giant turret cannons, which you can check out on my other raw gameplay video that's launching today showing off this map in the Operations game mode. Absolutely huge, absolutely beautiful. I've got my M1916 medic rifle here. This is probably one of my favorite guns for the medic so far. I mean, I haven't done a huge amount of stat digging on the medic class weapons, but man, this one just feels good. Very accurate, pretty powerful, good amount of ammunition. It doesn't force you to constantly reload after every 1 or 2 kills. Now, something that's interesting about the team deathmatch, domination, and War Pigeon modes is that they allow you to pick up the elite soldier classes. And you can see here I'm running one of the elite sentry style classes who's got this amazing dual SMG gun. And these guys I think are just a little bit too powerful for infantry only game modes. I mean, they're a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, and they definitely add a bit of chaos to the system, and maybe the flamethrower guy is one of the least powerful guys, so he feels to be more balanced. But this guy here is just absolutely insane, and I'm always able to just wreck the enemy team every time I get this class. I think he needs to be balanced a bit more, but it does make me wonder why they kept the elite classes in the TDM and domination style game modes, just since those game modes seems to be a bit more geared towards pure skill, as opposed to creating a game mode that can throw any sort of weird curveball at you at any second. Personally, I think they should get rid of the elite classes. I think that will be an option on custom servers, is to turn off or on elite soldiers. They make a lot of sense in Conquest or even Operations game mode, but in smaller infantry only modes that are geared, I think, a little bit more towards players looking to hone in their skill, they might not want to see somebody with an uber soldier running around wrecking everybody. Now we're wrapping up this video here on Amiens. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite maps regardless of the game mode. It is just so cool. There's so much destruction and even rubble drop in this map. As far as it comes to War Pigeon, I can't say I'm crazy about the game mode. You might enjoy it, but it is definitely a huge amount of chaos, and I like game modes that are a little bit more strategic, that you can work together with your team. War Pigeon has a little bit of that, but for the most part it's just a big old dose of chaos, and it doesn't feel like the games come down to skill as much as it does luck of the spawn. Ultimately though, I wasn't really expecting a whole lot from this game mode, and DICE really just hit the ball out of the park when they developed Operations, so I'm pretty happy with the innovations that they've made for Battlefield 1, regardless of War Pigeon's success or failure. As always guys, thanks for watching. Remember to check out the other video showing off all the other maps today, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.